Life is a game and people like playing games, then why don't we just create that perspective? To be in true power in yourself is when you've collected all your infinity stones. People ask me all the time, how have you been able to keep up with health and fitness? Because I'm not doing it for them. I've always been competing against myself. If you want to be consistent and be lifelong into health and fitness, it has to come from within.
What does it take to be in the top 1% of health and fitness?
It's 180 pounds, 6% body fat. That's it. People keep trying to figure out, where do we come from? Why do we exist? Anytime that somebody has the answer to it, it's a blind assumption. I only want to be around one type of person, somebody who dreams big. If your dreams don't inspire me, you can't be in my inner circle. Life isn't fair. There's somebody that could smoke cigarettes and live till they're 99. There's somebody who could not smoke cigarettes and get lung cancer. So you just have to accept that.
Wow, that's a story. You are a deep human. Would you consider yourself an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
Is that what you call yourself? Yeah.
Yeah.
You are an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But is there anything?
Well, are we filming right now?
Yeah, but I'm going to chop the
We can just dive right into it, dude.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm big on definitions. So how would you define an entrepreneur?
Oh, that's a great, you're turning it around on me, huh?
Yeah.
An entrepreneur is someone who creates their work around their life rather than their life around their work. Yeah,
and for me, my simple definition, I've gotten to this point in my life just recently, actually, that I'm trying to fucking simplify everything. So an entrepreneur to me is an advanced problem solver. That's all they're doing, right?
That's probably a more accurate definition. Yeah.
Really think about it. Name any company. There's every single person, when you're adding value to somebody's life, you're solving a problem for them. Let's say that I'm brushing my teeth and it's hard for me to go in a circular motion and it takes me a really long time to brush my teeth. Oh, insert now a battery-powered toothbrush that creates a circular motion for you. They just solve the problem for you, right? So it's just advanced problem solving. So dealing with companies, businesses, and even in relationships, all I'm thinking about is, what problem is presenting itself and how can I solve this problem? Which is a very rational way to look at life, but it's brought me a lot of gifts. And two, it doesn't mean that you have to be unemotional towards things, right? Because people are like, you're so logical. You can bring emotion into it. Maybe the way to solve the problem is to just sit and be still and listen to somebody. You're still solving the problem through some mechanism that you think is going to be valuable to yourself or to another individual.
I love that. Wow. A lot of people are running away from problems, avoiding problems. So an entrepreneur is just solving them. 100%.
And then this is another thing that, again, I have to get really good at, because I've been humbled so many times before of failing. Dude, I've failed so many times. I failed. And that's in relationships. I failed on myself when I counted on myself and I didn't show up. I've lost endless amounts of money. And the big thing for me too is everything feels like life or death to me sometimes when it's not. It's dude, the only thing that's life or death is life or death. If you're actually going through it.
I think that's why you're a high performer. You're that person that, you do obsess over the little things, and that has on the flip side, can be stressful sometimes, but look at what it's created. It's created this beautiful space. So at least you recognize that.
It's an amazing driver, and I think it serves a really big purpose until it doesn't anymore. And now I finally got to a point in my life where I'm like, that can no longer be my main driver. And now my main driver that I want to do is I want to look at life like a puzzle, and I want to find ways that I can gamify my life. Why Longevity Labs exists is because we are trying to gamify our business and our personal life and integrate it into one. Because if life is a game and people like playing games and they find joy in playing games, then why don't we just create that perspective? So now I'm trying to come to advanced problems, and the deeper you go down into the entrepreneurial route, the bigger problems you solve, right? And now instead of me thinking oh my God, this is life or death, I'm like, ooh, this is a puzzle that I have not solved yet, and I'm excited to solve it. And now it's my game, my infinite game, to find out how to solve these puzzles.
Wow, that takes the pressure off in a big way.
Yeah. Huge.
That's amazing. And what problems are you excited about solving right now?
This is how I break things down. You know Thanos?
From the
and he has all his infinity stones.
Yeah. Infinite games.
Yeah, people can love me or hate me, but I want to collect all my infinity stones. And
they are?
I feel like to be in true power in yourself is when you've collected all your infinity stones, which is number one is your health and fitness. People can debate this, and I would laugh at them, because if you're sick on your deathbed, what does anything else matter, right?
You only want your health in that moment.
I love the quote, a healthy man has 1,000 wishes, but a sick man has but one.
Boom.
And the second thing, so yes, you
Health
have
and fitness.
Yep, health and fitness.
I would agree with you.
Yep, everything starts with your health. If you don't have your health, you don't get to have relationships. You're gonna die, right? Because you haven't treated your body correctly. And for me, again, where I'm gonna be a little bit more extreme, I want to be the top 1% in health and fitness. It's just something that is true to me, right?
Yeah.
This doesn't have to be everyone's path, but I want the six-pack,
What does that even
eight-pack.
mean? What does it take to be in the top 1% of health and fitness?
Yeah.
Looking at you, I would guess that you are, but
for me, and when I'm about to go into a deep training mode over the next few months, but what it looks like is pretty simple. Again, how do I simplify my life? And what does that look like to me? It's 180 pounds, 6% body fat. That's it. And the ability to be agile, to jump really high, to run really fast, and to have quick lateral movement, and to be 180 and 6% body fat. Like, it doesn't have to be rocket science. And yeah, I want an 8-pack, and I've had an 8-pack before. 6-packs are cool. 8-packs are even cooler to me.
yeah,
And when
8-pack's definitely top 1%.
yeah, and when I had an 8-pack, I was just like, this is wild. But what I try and tell people too is, what does it feel like inside your body, your internal blueprint? Because if your internal blueprint doesn't meet or match your external reality, then there's friction. Because like, let's say that you used to be an athlete in college and you were the guy, and then you let yourself go. Now you have some drinks, some food, and you work some job you don't like, and you look at yourself in the mirror, and you know inside your body, you're like, I am an athlete. But then outside, when you're looking in the mirror, it's different. So now there's this friction between your internal and external blueprint. And inside my body, I feel like the best when I have an 8-pack and I'm super shredded. I just feel good. A lot of the times when I work out, I'll wear hoodies and pants, and I don't need to show anything off because I just do it for me. And then, so long-winded way, but number one, health and fitness. Number two, for me, is going to be relationships. And I look at relationships in two different ways. Relationship to yourself, first and foremost. Relationship to others. I know a lot of people that had amazing relationships with other people, yet they're miserable inside. Wow. Insert Robin Williams. Yeah. How many people love that guy? How many great relationships he had? Not the one with himself. So it's an inside job. And I have a shirt that has that on the outside. It says it's an inside job, right? So you start with you, and then your connection to others. The whole point, what I think, to have health and fitness is so that you can connect deeply with yourself and others. The money and all that shit, it's all secondary. And I'll give you an example of this. So go fly your private jet by yourself and nobody's inside of it.
Yeah.
It might be cool one time. Now go do that 100 times. It gets boring really fast.
I've been in a similar situation where I've had cool things and when no one was there, and I'm just like, this sucks.
What's the point?
Yeah.
So now we have health and fitness and relationships, and then the third one to me is going to be financial, right? Mm-hmm. And we were talking about this earlier. Money is important because we live in the matrix. We have constructed a society that says we trade our time for goods and services by trading value to another person. The person who is able to solve the most advanced problems and provide the most value gets the most money. Now, what you do with that money is how you facilitate your life and your meaning. I facilitate my meaning in life by being able to have a longevity center that I can bring my friends and family into and have great experiences.
Yeah, thanks for having me, by the way, dude.
Oh, yeah,
this has been awesome.
Yeah.
To see what you've created, it's something else.
I appreciate that, man.
I think any entrepreneur, any person in general would love to have a space like this.
Yeah, it's like the dream, and it's like, and again, this isn't for me, this is for all of us. Mm-hmm. Like, that was the point. Yep. And guess what? This place, these cars, cost a lot of money.
Yep.
But when you make the money, where do you spend it? What meaning does it facilitate in your life? So money is just a facilitator of meaning. I do believe people should have an exit the matrix number, that when you hit a certain number, you don't just keep chasing the dragon.
Right.
Because I've seen too many people do that, especially in like places like friggin' Miami and New York and stuff that, where it's like bigger, better, bigger house, more yachts, more planes.
For what?
And they're more often than not miserable, or they're chasing a high that keeps fading away. So they need more and more novel things in their life. So for me, I'm just like, man, if I could just I have my exit the matrix number, I have the things that I want in my life, and then now I get to share it with the people that I love. Like, that's the whole point. So I work very hard in business to play finite games, which are games with means to an end. I play business to make a certain amount of money, which certain desired outcomes, and then that dovetails into my infinite game. And in infinite game, there's no winners or losers. You play it for the sake of gameplay. Longevity Labs is an infinite game. There's no money being traded. It's just a way for us to testify our truth to the world. And that feels really, when I'm in my highest power, when I'm my most sovereign being, is when I'm testifying my truth to the world without any expectation of return. And that's when I become immovable.
No doubt though, doing all this will have a return.
Here's the funny thing. What's your intention behind it? Yeah. Because for me, and I said this on another podcast, I was talking to my buddy Josh, and I was like, you know what, Josh, here's the funny thing. I play all these finite games and I'm trying to make this money and provide this value, but I'm going to play my infinite games. Somehow, some way, playing this infinite game is going to make me more money than I've ever needed, or don't know what to do with. And that's the coolest part. And then the last one, just to end this one, is spirituality. And I'm really big on this. I think people can insert whatever word they want: God, Buddha, Allah, the universe, source, whatever you want to believe in. I do believe that there is a higher power of some sort. And I believe that we have 3 pieces to a 1,000,000-piece jigsaw puzzle, and we keep trying to make a picture, but we don't have all the pieces, which means like people keep trying to figure out like, where do we come from? Why do we exist? Anytime that somebody has the answer to it, or they have faith in the answer to it, it's a blind assumption.
Yeah.
And I could be very logical and pragmatic into that, but I'm also humble enough to know that we know 0.0000001% of what's happening here.
Do you think it's worth it to try to like understand what's happening and figure that out, or just play the game?
For me, what's served me the most is, if you keep trying to collect all 1,000,000 pieces and when you only have 3, you'll never get to it. And by the end, what you realize, it was an inside job. So for me, I'm like, how can I live my life with meaning and impact with the people that I love, and understand that when I die, I might not know what's going to happen next, and can I be okay with that? But can I still show up in my power and be a good human being? And then if you have top 1% health and fitness, you have the most amazing relationships with others and yourself, and then you have money where you get to facilitate meaning and impact, and then you have a connection to source. That's the thing.
That's the good life.
You have all infinity stones.
Yeah.
And for my question for myself and to people out there is, why wouldn't you want that? People are like, well, yeah, it's hard enough, Dacoda, for me to just even work out and then make a couple bucks. I'm like, no shit. The whole thing is difficult, but it's a game.
By design.
It's a puzzle.
Yeah.
So you just need to get better at problem solving and creating leverage.
That's awesome. Like, what was the first thing that like pushed you into wanting to be as good as you are? For example, the 1% of fitness. What was it that you were like, I'm going to do that? Like, I need to be the 1%. Was there something that sparked, or have you just always been like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it stacks over time. In the very beginning, we could just talk about health and fitness. So in 8th grade, I wanted to get a 6-pack going into freshman year of high school.
For the ladies, right?
I don't know. I just get obsessive over things.
Okay.
It wasn't even about the ladies at all. I'm weird like that. I just obsess over, like, I set a target and a goal, and I'm just like, I just want that. And I saw the 6-packs, and I used to look at like bodybuilder magazines, and for some reason I was like, that looks awesome that these guys can create this physique that nobody else has. And
sounds like you're not even really doing it for other people. Like, you're actually doing it for you.
Here's a really powerful thing. And again, I'm glad this is being recorded. When you are doing something to appease somebody else, there is a short-term fuel source in that. People ask me all the time, how have you been able to keep up with health and fitness since you're 14 years old, right? So now we're looking at like 18 years?
It's a long time.
Consistently, just dialed. And I'm like, because I'm not doing it for them. I've always been competing against myself. I can give a shit less. People are like, oh dude, sweet 6-pack. I'm like, thanks. And I just get back to work. It's always been for me. So when it's for others, that fuel source runs out. When it's an inside job and you just do it to better yourself because it's just what fills you up with love and joy, man, can you be consistent with something. I just warn people, it's okay to start that way, to prove somebody wrong, or to use that fuel source.
There is some power there.
Massive power, and I think it's a great starter. But if you want to be consistent and be lifelong into health and fitness, it has to come from within.
That's amazing. Have you always been consistent like that?
In most of my categories, I've always been a light switch guy. So like in high school, I used to party when I was like 15 to 16 years old. And I was like, I used to drink like, man, we would have maybe 12, 15 shots at a party at 15 years old.
Wow.
So yeah, not a lightweight.
Damn, something that impresses me about you, dude, is you're like dialed in fitness, crushing business, like basically checking all these boxes, every category, but you're also like, I can go party.
Yeah.
I can do some extracurricular activities and like have a good time. And sometimes people sacrifice one to do the other.
100%. I think Corey, my buddy Corey and I, my old roommate, we used to joke about this. We just love being around multidimensional people, right?
Boom, that's it. Multidimensional.
I meet so many people that are 1 or 2 dimensional or even 3 dimensional, right? Where it's like they have good relationships, they have secure finances, and they're in good shape, but they just don't know how to have fun, or they don't know how to tap into this like spiritual, like there's an interconnectedness and a consciousness that's beyond us. And can we talk about that? And again, too, I'm not a woo-woo guy and I love science, but also the people that can't go to those spaces, it's hard for me to connect with them on the deepest level. And two, yeah, I want to have fun and be able to party because there's this guy, one of my mentors, that said, I only want to be around one type of person, somebody who dreams big. You have to have big dreams. If your dreams don't inspire me, then I could be a friend of yours, but you can't be in my inner circle. Your dreams have to inspire me. Second thing, probably most important, is you have the ability to get shit done. I know a lot of dreamers who don't know how to get shit done. And I cannot be around those people. Visionaries who don't execute. I've lasted long enough in this world to where I know my boundaries. When I see those people, I wish them the best, Godspeed, and just execute. And then the last thing is they know how to have fun. So if you meet somebody that dreams big, knows how to get shit done, and knows how to have fun, you're my fucking guy. And in high school, so we would drink alcohol in like 15, 16, and at 16 years old, I was like, I'm gonna quit drinking for a month. All my friends like, you're crazy, you're not gonna do it. And then I quit for a month. Then I saw my buddy and I was like, I'm going to quit the funny thing is he bet me a Subway sandwich. He's like, I bet you a 6-inch Subway sandwich that you won't quit for a month. And I'm like, I love competing. So I'm like, game on. So I went a month and then I come back to him. I said, you know what? I'm not going to drink all summer. He's like, bro, you can't do that. I'll give you a foot-long meal deal. And I was like, done. I went all summer to all the parties at 16. I used to party. So and all my friends. And people are like, if you go to the same situations, you're going to have the same habitual pattern and habit. But I'm always that type of person that likes to like try me. So I'll go to all the parties with all my friends that I used to drink with all the time next day and just be like, no, I'm not doing it. And all my friends would try and peer pressure me so hard. And then after 3 months, I said, you know what? I'm going to go an entire year. And then my buddy was like, I'm not betting you anymore. I believe you. And then I went a whole year.
But he did pay you for the first bet, right?
Yeah, I got a foot-long meal deal, which was sick. I mean, like fucking $11. And then I quit for the whole year, and then I ran it back, and I said, I'm gonna do another year. So I went from 16 to 18 years old. I didn't have a sip of alcohol. I went to every single high school party under the sun. I had a girlfriend that went to those parties who did drink, and everyone, girlfriend and friends, would try and get me to have a sip for 2 years. Never broke.
Wow.
I just like to have that thing in me. And I think that trait or tool has brought me very far in life. And it's a little bit a form of extremism. But there's a lot of great things that have happened with that.
I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with extremism if it's pointed the right way.
Yeah, when prescribed correctly, it could be a great tool.
Yeah, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this, because you see some people that it's like they smoke cigarettes for their entire life, never really worked out, and they live until they're like 99.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, so again, I kind of like look at the science. So this is what science tells when you look in the form of like longevity. Generally speaking, and there's some different things about this, but show me your parents and I'll show you your lifespan. There's so much that links back to longevity, linked to your genetics. And you're gonna die of one of 4 different things. It's just the truth. You're gonna die of neurodegenerative disease, cardiovascular disease, some form of cancer, or an accident. That's it. It's the 4 horsemen. Everyone will die from one of those 4 things. It's how do we delay the onset of neurodegeneration, of cancerous cells building up in our body and senescent cells and mutating and then creating issues with our DNA. And then how do we stay away from accidents, right? If I live in a couple 2-story house and I have stairs and I'm 80 years old and it's hard for me to brace myself, fall down the stairs, break your hip, you're in the hospital, then you get sarcopenia, then you end up muscle wasting, and that leads to your death over a long period of time. So constantly thinking about reverse engineering, how do I delay the onset of these? Also knowing that my genetics have more to do with it than people are led to believe. So I think that you can eke out, if you treat yourself really well, an extra 10 years of life, but what's your health at that? Because if I'm 80 to 90 and I can't get out of bed, there's no point.
Right.
So it's health span and lifespan. There's 2 arcs.
Yep.
And
quality of life, you want to be up there.
And there might be people that drink and smoke. My Uncle Dan, I think it's in August, it's his 100th birthday.
Oh, damn.
Every birthday that I go to for my Uncle Dan, he's always has a whiskey in his hand. And he remembers stuff. And I'm like, how do you remember stuff and you're drinking whiskey? Yet I know people that are like 78 and they're losing their mind. Here's the thing, life isn't fair. There's somebody that could smoke cigarettes and live till they're 99. There's somebody who could not smoke cigarettes and get lung cancer. Never said it was gonna be fair. Where in the rule book did it say it was gonna be fair?
Yeah, so where's the rule book?
Yeah, so you just have to like accept that.
Yeah. How do you come to terms with things like that?
My quote for that has been, I try to not expect the unexpected, but accept the unexpected. So
basically roll with the punches.
Yeah. And it's like when people expect the unexpected, they're always expecting like what's around the corner that's either gonna bring me joy or hurt me. And that's just not a great place to live in, that you're not gonna be present. So when I just accept the unexpected, bad things happen. I've been through some bad things. I know a lot of great people have been through some bad things, but when we have this acceptance towards life and to understand like it's not always going to be our way, then you can kind of just like sit and relax into that. And it's like, okay, this is my story now. A big thing that brought that home for me was my best friend. We were snowboarding together 5 years ago and he hit a tree and he's paralyzed from the chest down. This guy is an athlete, great snowboarder, skateboarder, all the things. Grew up our whole lives together. We snowboarded for 18 years together and did the craziest stuff that you can do. Yet one run 5 years ago, lost control and hit a tree, and now he's paralyzed. That's not fair, but man, if he doesn't accept that reality, he will suffer for the rest of his life.
Right.
So I see these extreme examples, and I bring that up because I'm actually going snowboarding with him in a week and a half in Colorado. He's mono skiing now.
Let's
He just started. This is our first time riding together since the accident. It's a big moment for both of us.
Pretty big deal, yeah.
But man, shit happens.
Shit happens. I love how you said too that it just becomes part of your story.
Yeah.
And that unique, the unique things that you're blessed or cursed with or happen in your life. I mean, share it. Even if you just share them, it could help somebody else that's maybe in that similar situation.
100%. And then my big thing for anybody out there that's dealing with anything, adversity, struggles, maybe becoming paralyzed, is like the big question is what now? Yes, and. Yes, you're paralyzed, and what now? I can't be in that position, but you have no other choice but to say, yes, and now what? And when you accept your current position and find ways to move forward with acceptance, love, and joy in your heart, no matter how hard it is, your life becomes less sufferable. That's just a better frame to live life, because so many people are living in a victim's mentality. And I'm telling you right now, that's the number one thing that's holding them back, because they're pointing fingers.
That's powerful. Yeah, I've had people tell me before, they're like, how come you're so unaffected by this or that? And I'm just like, well, I can't change that thing. I have no other option than to move forward. Right?
Yeah, 100%.
So that's it. What's been, is there like a point in your life that you would mark as like the most challenging period or chapter?
Oh man, it's been like the last 4 years. There was,
we're in it.
Yeah. Gosh, you know what? I'll keep this fairly short. But a big part of my story is I had a person in my life that I thought that I was going to spend the rest of my life with. And I told her, I was like, I'll never leave you no matter what. Nothing could happen that I would leave you. And I meant that. And and I'm, again, too, as people now probably heard, I'm very convicted and extreme. So I meant that. And things,
you wouldn't have.
And I wouldn't have.
I'm pretty certain.
Yeah. And she made her decision to leave that relationship for various reasons. Big one was we didn't live in the same state. We were doing long distance for 2 years.
Wow.
She was going to get her PhD in clinical psychology, and she lived in Colorado, and I lived in California, and I was building businesses. And it came to this point where she's like, I'm going to keep holding you back because you're always going to choose me over everything else. She knows me very well. She's like, you're too ambitious of a person, Dacoda, that if you constantly keep prioritizing me, that I feel like you will always hold a little bit of resentment towards me in our relationship, and you won't be able to fulfill this like deep driver in you that just needs to be let out. And since that ended, I've just been on this war path of just executing my dream unrelentlessly and unapologetically. And, you know, she was my greatest teacher. She caused me my most trauma, and she was the person that I loved the most. But when that relationship ended, the funny thing is the universe will always test you. So I end up going to Peru to go through a path of unlearning and processing this trauma. And yeah, I did the things that like people can think whatever they want, but yeah, I did ceremonies of ayahuasca in Peru with shamans and indigenous people. And I got immersed in different ways to look at life. And I tested my mind on the deepest levels that I knew how. And one of them was ayahuasca, and another one was a silent retreat, Samatha Vipassana retreat. And
I've been curious about that.
They're so powerful, man. And I would never recommend Aya to anyone. That's on your own regard. You have to be called to the cup.
I agree.
And that's your own path.
Yeah.
However, I would recommend that everyone does a silent retreat. Not a darkness retreat, but a silent retreat. And it'll be okay. You know, it's 168 hours and you can't talk, you can't write, you can't read, you can't exercise. And there's like 18 hours of meditation. And
wow.
You'll drive yourself insane. Yeah, you just have to be. And like, I remember I was like staring at a tree one time for like 4 hours sober, like losing my mind because I was so bored. But what I was able to do was hear my unconscious mind for the first time, and what I was saying to myself and programming myself with, that we're so busy in life, we create so much noise in our life that we don't often hear that inner voice that's been there the whole time. And through that silence, I was able to find that, and then come back from this and I'm like, I figured it out, I know what I'm doing. And then this person sends me a message. She's like, hey, I love you, I want to be with you. I realized that you're my person. I made the wrong decision. I want to move out to California. Let's figure this out.
Wow. I knew that was going to happen. I'm like, how could she let this guy go?
I'm like, fuck. And then again, too, I'm just such an executor that I'm like, done. I'm booking a flight. Let me look at this. I'm going to line up this. This is our timeline. This is how we execute on it. And then I fly out there. Again, it's been like a long time since we've been intimate or hung out. And we had this amazing first day and experience. And I was just like, man, like I'm back. But not only am I back, I went through all this spiritual learning, and I've become a new version of myself, and I'm now presented in this different way, and I was really proud, and now I got my girl back, and I'm like, I'm winning, right? I'm getting my infinity stones. And then I also doubled that trip to go snowboarding with my best friend the next day. So we spend some time together. I drive down an hour south to surprise my friend for his birthday, and then the next day we go snowboard, and then he gets paralyzed.
Yo, this is crazy.
Yeah, and then I know I'm
glad we got to the full story.
Yeah,
holy smokes.
And I know I'm kind of like speaking through it more like unemotionally right now, but man, let me tell you, it's been years and years and years and years of hard work, and
I have the chills.
Yeah, fucking crying.
I feel it, bro. I feel it.
Yeah, so it took me a long time to get to this point, but I ended up staying at the hospital for a while and being there with the friends and family because he almost died. He got flight for life off the mountain, and it was the worst experience that I've ever been through in my life. And God, here I am saying that. What did he feel? To this day, I can't understand how he feels inside of his body, but regardless of that, I went back after a few days to see my person again, and I was a shell of myself. I had complete emotional detachment. I couldn't smile. I was deeply hurt. And what I needed was a best friend. And what she felt was maybe we lost our connection that I thought we once had. And I was like, logically like, no, I just saw my best friend get paralyzed. That's why there's no connection here anymore.
Right.
I can't connect with anyone right now. I'm in it. And she just had this epiphany, and we were meditating, and she's like, hey, like, we got to pull the plug, and you need to go. And you know what? I have so much love for her because she had so much courageousness in that moment to speak her truth. Whether she was right or wrong, or whatever the circumstance was, people were like, oh, you should have more compassion. He just lost his... It doesn't matter. She spoke her truth.
Yeah.
And I accepted that, and I had to leave. So I literally had to drive to my mom's house. And I was like, oh my God. It's like, I just lost the girl again. I just lost my best friend and the way that I knew who he was to me. And then I had this breakdown, and then I just thought to myself, like, I got really serious about this. Anything that's a forward-thinking thought, I'm going to do in my life. I mean, anything that's a forward-thinking thought. So I went on to Indeed, and I started applying to every general management position out there, because I come from a background of a Fortune 500 sales manager for half a decade with a big company, and I didn't necessarily want to get back in that game, but I needed a forward-thinking thought. So I applied to all these general management positions, and then I get an interview request for this guy named Nate Leathers. And I'm in the parking lot in King Soopers with my mom and my sister taking a phone interview, and then my mom and sister go in the parking lot, and I'm talking to this guy, Nate. Mind you, I'm 5 days out from my best friend's accident, and then the love of my life, my soulmate, quote unquote.
And how long ago was this again? Where are we at?
This was 5 years ago.
5 years ago.
And here's what I'll say about soulmates. You are your own soulmate.
Hell yeah.
And people keep trying to find their soulmate when I'm like, you found it. They're in the mirror.
It's always going within.
And when you take your last breath, it will be with yourself. You know what I mean? And there's like so much power in that. So I realized too, again, through a lot of deep work, that I'm my own soulmate, and I don't mind sharing my life with other people, but I'll never give my life to anyone again. And I gave my life to her, and that wasn't fair to her to hold the weight of that.
It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it's too much. And anyway, I had this interview, and this guy, Nate, was like a dick. And I was like, what is this guy doing? I was like, I didn't like his, again, I come from a very buttoned up Fortune 500 world. I'm just like, and he's like off the cuff saying stuff. And I'm just like, who is this guy? And he was making me very defensive, like trying to like put me into corners and call me out on stuff. And I'm like, and I hold my own. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to come to your business. I'm in Colorado. I'm dealing with some personal stuff. I'm going to come out to the business on Thursday. He never even offered me the job. And he goes, oh, well, I'm not going to be there on Thursday. I'm busy. I was like, oh, I didn't ask. I'm just going to go see your business. I want to look at it first to see if it's something I'm even interested in. And he's like, oh, I'll be there. I'll be there. Changed his schedule. He met me. We linked up. And then now, fast forward 5 years from today, we've built all these businesses together. We stand in an infinite game that we've created together. And it all came from that moment where I had that forward-thinking thought. And the last 5 years have led me to this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy.
So a lot of people don't know that story.
Bro, that's a story.
Yeah. People are like, why are you so driven? I'm like,
you are a deep human, bro.
I appreciate
really,
that.
that story is like moving. Wow. So since we just talked about a lot of things, but what about the relationship side of that? So you went from loving, the love of your life, the person. I'm with you. I don't know that you should ever give your life away. Like, you're number one. Yeah. And you can share it. And I think it's good to maintain that independence in a couple. Otherwise, you lose that polarity anyway and that attraction, Yeah. So do you ever see yourself in a long-term relationship?
After that relationship ended, I feel like it took me about, and this is a good thing for people that are going through heartbreak, because I saw people go through heartbreak where I'm like, oh my God, they're going to be ruined for the rest of their life. And then like literally in a few months, they're like doing better and like talking to another guy or girl. I'm like, for me, it took almost 3 years.
To get over that.
Yeah. I mean, almost 2 years where I had no interest in anyone else. I just didn't care. And I was apathetic, which is without emotion. I had no emotion towards anything. And it took me 2 years to start to build up my spirit again, and almost 3 years to close that loop. So what my thing to people is, it takes what it takes. Man, there's no timeline to get over heartbreak, and heartbreak doesn't have to be from an intimate relationship. It could be losing a loved one. You know what I mean?
And how do you even get over that? Like, what steps were you taking to feel better or move through that?
This is another thing. There is no protocol, right? It's just finding ways to grow within yourself. And for me, a big thing that really helped me on my journey was attaching to my infinite game, which was my why and my purpose. And how I connect to that is between your head, your heart, and your hand. What do I want to learn about? Like, what stuff actually excites me to learn about? And just start learning that stuff, regardless if it's connected with your job or not. It feeds you in some way.
Yeah.
So I just start learning about things that I was genuinely interesting and curious about. And then my heart is, what type of people do I want to learn this information with and share with? And then with the information that I'm learning, that I love to learn about, that fills my soul, the people that I have that are connected with my heart that I get to learn this information with, how do we now want to share that information to the world? And your world can be your community. It could be the world at scale. You get to define that. But for me, trying to find connection in my head, heart, and hand, and starting to go through that process and that internal growth process really helped me to not completely lose hope on life. Because there was a period of time where I'm like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Like, I just really couldn't find a reason. Not that I was ever suicidal, but I just couldn't find a reason why we're even doing this thing called life in the first place, because I wasn't connected to something that was bigger than me. And that took years. It's not like I found it out. Guess what? I just started doing reps. It's what I know how to do in the gym. It's just you do repetition, and you start to master things. You start to get better, and then that creates momentum, and then that creates growth. And then you find, I actually didn't like that thing as much. Now I like. So it's that process, and just being mindful, trying your hardest not to do things that you know are destructive behaviors, which that's where my discipline comes in, which I was very happy that I could lean on my discipline in that moment, because I doubled down on my health and fitness, I doubled down on my spirituality, and I doubled down on my relationships to myself and others.
Yeah, anytime I've been in a rough situation, health is the first for me. I go back to gym,
it's your foundation.
Running, gym, anything. It truly is the foundation. You can immediately physiologically make yourself feel better and create momentum.
It's the first infinity stone.
It's the first infinity. Dude, it's funny because we wanted to talk about how to kind of become a sovereign individual, and build a sovereign life. And my definitions are very similar. Like, those are the things that you got to do. So I love to, and the way that you speak on them is incredible.
Let me at least answer the question.
We're coming full circle.
I feel like it's so love. I could do this so many times too. I was on the phone with somebody and they're like, "Are you a politician?"
Because you are a speaker.
But they're like, "You have a really good way of saying a lot of great things without answering my question," like a politician.
You're doing the Donald Trump weave.
Yeah. And I'm just like, "Hey, I don't mean to. I've just thought about these things a lot." So after that relationship ended, and then I started to open up to more relationships. I will be deadly honest. I struggle with intimate partnership right now, mainly because it's not my priority. Mm-hmm. People love to say this. I could say, "What are your priorities right now?" And then you'd say, "Oh, my priorities is business and fitness and this, that, and the other thing." And then I would follow you around for a week, and I'll look at your schedule, and I'll look at everywhere you spent a minute, an hour, a day, what you did. And I could tell you what your priorities are. So when I went to Christmas, my Christmas Eve party with my grandparents and saw my aunts and uncles and cousins, I told them that my family was my fourth priority. They're like, oh my God.
Offended.
And I said, logically speaking, where do I spend my most time? I spend that on Speed to Lead and Longevity Labs. If time is the most valuable resource and asset, and it's where I spend 80% of my time, wouldn't that be my first priority? Because wouldn't I be spending 80% of my time with my family? It's not wrong, but people are like, well, yeah, we need to make money. Then yeah, just be honest. That's your first priority, so that you can now get your family to pay for them so that they can have some type of life. But it is your priority. So Speed to Lead and Longevity Labs is my first priority. My second priority is my health and fitness. My third priority is networking, like we're doing right now. My fourth priority is my friends and family. And my fifth priority is intimate partnership.
Bottom of the chain. So
when I go on dates, I tell them this. I'm a tough first date.
Just straight up.
Dude, I will be unapologetically myself, and I do believe in leading with authenticity and transparency. And you know what? Every girl that I have been intimate with over any duration of time always ends up finding a way to respect everything that I've said, because I'm so congruent. When you're incongruent, that's what causes emotional damage. When you're congruent, it still hurts just as much, but when they reflect on it, they go, yeah, he said everything that he said, he stayed true to.
He wasn't lying.
So because it's my fifth priority, I do believe that in about 3 to 4 years from now, I will have built up enough financial abundance where my semi-passive income will supersede my daily expenditures, so that it will allow me more time freedom where I can reprioritize intimate partnerships to be number 2. Number 1 will then become myself. And then number 2 will be intimate partnerships. And then number 3, health and fitness, because it's more upkeep. I don't have to allocate that much time to health and fitness because I've already gotten to a certain point, right? Same thing with business. I look at muscles and training over long durations of time like compounded interest and passive income. If you have more muscle tissue and you've gained, and your muscles have reached a certain size before, you have muscle memory, it's easier to get there, it's easier to maintain.
That's so true.
You've earned that right through your hard work. So because of that, it'll be my third priority, and then I could reprioritize how I want to spend my time. And then that person will actually get my more present self, rather than me running around trying to build all this stuff while they're my fifth priority, which I don't think is fair to them. And I don't think it's fair to me to try and show up in a way that they want me to show up when I can't do that in this season of my life. So I own that truth. I still go on dates, and I just got out of a relationship. I won't go too deep into that, with an absolutely amazing person. And she checked every box that every guy would ever want. And people are looking at me like, you're crazy. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't know my journey, and I get to decide that. And that comes back to me being my own sovereign being.
Yeah.
So
and you may meet someone that is okay being fifth and working through that with you.
Yeah,
that's a possibility.
And usually if they push to say, I want the next step, I want more commitment, I want more this, and I can't offer that, that's usually when things start to, we decide to take different paths. And again, we have an adult conversation, right? How crazy is this? You don't have to fight. You don't have to argue. You could stand in your truth. And yes, there's emotion. There might be crying, but you hold a container that is a safe space where you get to speak your truth without lashing out at somebody else. So now that has ended, now I feel like, again, I'm just getting back to number one, myself, my health and fitness. I'm about to go into a season of that. And then the therapist side of me would say that I do believe that when that relationship ended, it caused such a hurt and trauma in my life that it's hard for me to commit to people. I do believe I have commitment issues because of that. I also do believe because she ultimately didn't choose me. And I looked at I'm like, again, arrogant, ego, whatever. I'm like, how do you not choose me? Because, and it's not like, oh, cool, he's money and he's rich. No, I'm like, I think deeper. I want to be a good human. I'm constantly testing myself to be better. I want to be intimate in all the ways that light you up. I want to grow together. I want to be all the things. I want all my Thanos rings. I want all the Infinity Stones. How do you, and it's not like she was choosing somebody else. She was just choosing not me, which is the hardest part too. There wasn't another person, which hurt a lot. And then it made me feel like I wasn't enough. And there's this prove it mentality that I think.
We're talking about your last relationship, not the.
No, the 5 years. 5 years ago. That was like I call it an inflection point.
Just to clarify.
Yeah. There's an inflection point that happened. And I think, okay, so here's all the good things that came from it. Here's things that are not so good, that now I have a little bit more commitment issues. It's hard for me to go deep with a person that way. I feel I wasn't worthy enough for her love. So I'm constantly trying to prove it to the world and to other women that I'm worthy. So and I'm saying to her, look at all these people that love me. How could you have not loved me? That's that deep, vulnerable side that not a lot of people like to share. And again, when I say the therapy side, in therapy, it's that's a deeper truth that is hard for me to express. Yet I am working on that. And I do believe that there is a moment, and I do believe that I got to a point where I do believe I am enough. I know I'm enough. I'm fully in my power,
it, bro.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that. I was talking to this girl the other day. I'm like, just a friend of mine, and she's like, "Hey, you're doing really great." And I said, "Thank you. I'm trying. I'm actually trying."
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, where I'm like, for people, I'm like, just try. Yeah. So many people are just not trying.
Yeah, not a lot of competition these days.
Yeah. But so with the women now, I'm just like, I think I just need to put that on the back burner again and get my priorities right. And I do, see myself being with a person at some point in time. And man, they have to be multidimensional. They have to show up on a lot of different, it's a lot to expect from another individual. And people are like, dude, that's kind of intense. But I'm like, yeah, but I never would ask something from somebody else that I don't ask of myself. So if I'm asking these things of myself, I'm allowed to ask it from another individual, understanding that nobody's perfect, including myself, and there always will be sacrifices in a relationship. It's a joint account, and there's deposits and withdrawals on both sides, and it's not always an even balance, and you gotta accept that.
Wow. Yeah. Do you think that marriage is in the future? Do you think that's an institution that's still worth exploring?
Yeah, I look at evolutionary biology almost always. I always start with evolutionary biology. How are we programmed through evolution to be who we are today? If we are designed to procreate, and back then too, first of all, the life expectancy didn't change until not too long ago in the advent of antibiotics and like understanding that germs and diseases and illness and all these different things. Like when you looked at like how they gave birth, even in the early 1900s, you would be shocked, right? And we had a whole host of problems that came with that. But there was this point where we started to understand all these things, and we had vaccines and antibiotics, and we're like, oh, we're living longer now. But the last X amount of years, what were we designed to do? Procreate and spread our seed as men.
Yep.
It is in us all, and I don't mind monogamy, but it's not what we're programmed to do. So monogamy is a discipline that you have to show up for every single day. You have to find your space on the mat, and you have to bow down and say, I am being disciplined to choose this over anything else, but is not what you're designed to do. And that is what I believe based on science and based on evolutionary biology, and I'm open to everyone's interpretation of it. But as men, if we're designed to procreate and spread our seed, because it increases the chance of survival, and the reason why we all only exist, because life wasn't always great with cell phones and stuff like that. We're going into battles and stabbing each other with swords and getting illnesses every day of the week. We had to spread as much seed as possible for all of us to exist. And then now we've created this societal norm and matrix, and then that comes into the next thing of, when did marriage become a thing? Because we were tribal, and when you're tribal, you'd have kids that was raised by the tribe.
Yep.
It doesn't matter who your mom or dad or this or that was. You are of the tribe, and your goal is to become a person to add value to the tribe, because it's how you all survive, stronger together, right? So it's this co-op, this collective. You see some crazy spiritual woo-woo, like granola people living this type of life with their communes and stuff. Yeah. But who's to say that they're wrong? But it's where we came from. And then somewhere along the way, we started to say, no, marriage. And then somewhere along the way, the diamond ring came. And I don't know if you know the story behind the diamond ring and how that became. And it was this whole marketing ploy.
I think it's a giant scam.
It is a scam. And then they hide
You ever tried to resell a diamond ring after you get it?
No.
I have. And you're like, wait a second. I got played.
Well, yeah. Well, dude, they have a surplus of diamonds that they store and hide away so that they can create supply and demand. And then they had this a diamond is forever, and the circle of the ring shows this never-ending "I love you." And then there's this big marketing push, and I forget when it was done, but man, did it make an impact in our society and how we structure our lives. So then it was we went from this tribal commune thing to now it started to adapt into marriage, and then it's one-to-one, and now it's I'm gonna put a ring because you're my person forever and there's nobody else. And then now it's just it's so interesting in the world today, because I'm not a woman, but I know that what their role is to birth a child and to raise and nurture that child. It's their instincts way more than men to say, because usually look at wildlife. Here's how wildlife works. You have a freaking mating season. They go smash all these animals. They have babies and they bounce, and then the mom raises that child enough until it gets into its adolescent stages and has learned enough to then go bounce. And that's just the circle of life. Yet we're doing it a completely different way.
I've thought about that a lot when everyone's complaining about this or that in society. I'm like, what's nature? What's going on in nature? And I'm like, look at these guys. They're doing
evolutionary biology.
I'm like, we're just making it different.
I just hate when people aren't logical to at least look at it. Can we? I don't want to get into a fight with anyone. I don't want to get into an argument. But then it comes to this thing where it's if you choose to be in a monogamous relationship, that's fine too. But know that you're not programmed to do so. And for a female, she's much more programmed to do so, because it brings a lot of different things. It brings safety. There's less uncertainty, right? So that she can actually raise her child. Mm-hmm. It brings resources, right? If you're a provider. This is, again, not everyone. I know women that have babies and crush it in business and make more than the guys do.
Yep.
But I'm saying, as a whole, that's on a large scale, that's about how it works at a majority. So then you get the woman pregnant, she births a child, you create some place for her to nest, and you create an environment that's safe, and you grow this child together and you stay together, while this guy is like, man, I still have all these other drivers that now I have to try and suppress. And for these guys out there that might be addicted to porn or cheating or wanting to go run off, I'm like, man, if you're doing that, first of all, there's a karmic balance that your debt will be owed and things will fall apart in a bad way if you're lying. So do your best, if you're experiencing these things, to either accept them and share it with your partner, to go through therapy to understand where that driver is coming from, or to say to your partner, this agreement that we have made with each other doesn't work for me in this way. Here's what would work for me. Are you open to that? Mm-hmm. And again, coming back to what that person said when she said, hey, I don't want to be with you anymore, it was her owning her truth. So as men and women as well, you have to own your truth. And the more I see people suppress things, the more I see them hide in the dark. And the truth always comes out, and it usually comes out in a very ugly and messy way, when it could have just started with a simple conversation where maybe you actually aren't a good fit because your agreements are different.
Wow.
Yeah.
Would you say that you practice like radical honesty in all things?
I do my best. I'm actually gotten a lot better at it probably over the last year or two. And I think that, man, in relationships too, it could be really tough. I'm too honest.
Yeah, I wonder that sometimes. I'm like, am I saying too much and I just need to like handle stuff? You know, maybe this is oversharing and it's actually, you know, making things harder for her when I could just do what I'm meant to do.
I think it's important to not overshare. Because I think there are things that you need to have your own journey with. But I would say this, like
your wife or girl probably doesn't want to know about all your business struggles.
Yeah, and you could share like it's just, it doesn't need. First of all, your wife is, or your girlfriend or whatever, that is your partner that you've decided to do life with for a duration of time. They're not your therapist, right? So if you want to unload and process all these things, then go to therapy. But they are there to love and support you through your good times and your bad times. So you don't want to be dishonest with them, but you don't need to dump everything on them. But then also too, like I could be very, I wouldn't say harsh, but very direct and sharp in relationship because I speak my truth so hard.
Yeah.
That it's almost like
it's a little radical.
It's a little radical, and I'm not empathetic towards your felt experience because I'm so strong in owning my own truth, which is not fair, again, to that other person.
I can relate to that.
It's not a compassionate lens to look at life through.
Correct.
So that has got me into some interesting conversations where I could have just been like, oh, you know what, I love you and you're amazing, and tell these white lies. But then now I'm like, no, I don't agree with that. Like, really? Like, it would be the simplest thing.
And you made it into something.
I always, because I'm like, I question every, and again, this is where it could be tough to deal with me. Every word matters. So when they say something, I'll say, you just said this, this, and this, and this word. And that's the definition of this word. So this, and this. Like, well, no, okay, well, then you need to say it differently. Like, and I remember there's a movie example where we're watching a movie and I said some off the cuff comment and she didn't agree with it. And I was like, why don't you agree with that? She said her thing and I paused the movie. And I was like, now we need to, yeah, I'm like, let's unpack this together. And that could be intense, but I just don't let anyone get away with anything. And in business too, I have high integrity, almost to a fault, to where if I see anyone pulling any type of move on somebody, I have enough knowledge in business now in all different categories that I can know if somebody is trying to pull a fast one. And I know human psychology, so I'm like, I call people out hard. And I could be very like sharp. But again, too, love me or hate me, I'm gonna speak the truth and I'm gonna make you speak the truth. And if you're around me trying to lie, I'm gonna call you out on your bullshit.
Yeah. Well, I can really appreciate that because I feel like most people today are extremely soft. Like I literally tell some people, I'm like, I want people to give me some constructive criticism sometimes, and I feel like people won't. They're just like, no, everything's great. I'm like, let's go.
Bro, bring it.
So with you, I'm like, man, at least I can appreciate that you're going to shoot me like, bam, straight. And maybe it stings a little, but like, you know, everyone around you is going to get better.
100%.
I mean, who doesn't want that? Maybe not everybody, but
a great tool though, but not the best tool in an intimate relationship towards the feminine energy.
Totally.
And that's where like my last partner would be like, hey, I'm not Nate. Like, stop getting into these debates with me, because like Nate and I are iron, and we sharpen metal by pounding our swords together in a very like harsh way, but it's how we call each other out on our shit, and we don't let either party skate away with anything, and it leads to very passionate conversations that get intense sometimes, but that's where I got my most growth from.
Absolutely.
But with the feminine, you need to approach that differently. And again, I just don't think I'm in the energy or season of my life to fully embrace what I need to open up to hold that feminine.
That's awesome. Would you say that you are happier than you've ever been?
Good question. Man, it's so funny too, because like, I'm glad that we're talking. I have a lot to say, obviously.
Dude, you really do. And
nobody knows.
I met you briefly through Corey, right?
Yeah.
And then I've spent more time with Corey, and he's always like, dude, Dacoda's like such a great dude. And I'm like, yeah, of course. Like he was super nice. And like, I didn't know you. Like before this. And I'm like, holy cow, dude. I have a lot of like admiration, love, and respect for you after this short conversation and time together. So thanks for doing it.
I spent a lot of lonely nights thinking about my thoughts.
You're the depth of with which you go into everything is very refreshing.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
I think that's what creates, for me, it's what fills me up with love and joy is to go past the surface level. I'm fine with having surface level conversations at times, but not always. And it doesn't light me up either. No. And first of all, like talking about business, I love, and I'll talk about business all day. But there's so many things so much deeper than business.
Sure.
And if people can't go there, then they're not multidimensional. And I still have love for them. I'll still be their friends and I'll still do business with them. But you just won't be in my you won't be a part of my tribe. But to answer your question, I was in the driveway with my sister. We were sitting in my car, my new car. You know, I got a brand new Tesla Model S, and it's a car that I've always wanted.
You got
great
great taste in cars, bro.
Yeah, we got the same car. So we get it. Teslas are the best. Shout out to Elon.
Dude, everybody sends me the texts all the time, or the memes all the time about how Tesla owners are gay and stuff.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, get
bro,
out
I
here.
love that
I'm
stuff.
like, you're just jealous, bro.
It
drives itself.
Another weird thing about me is I love people who shit talk me is my love language. I literally have it written down. Like one of my love languages is shit talking. Like
it's pretty motivating.
I love when people shit talk me.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It just fuels me up. You won't quit drinking for a month. You won't do this. You won't do that. Like, bring it, dude. Just bring it. Just bring all the hate. I love it.
Watch.
Yeah, I don't have to say anything. I just do. It's like execution is everything.
Best revenge is just the success, the execution.
So, like Hermosi says, become so big that they just cast a shadow that they now have to live in.
Yeah.
That comes from a hurt place. I don't believe in that. I come in the place of just do great things because you want to do great things and let people talk all the shit that they want and you just keep fucking doing the reps and you're like, watch me now. But yeah, so I'm sitting in the driveway with my sister in my new car and I have this brand new office and it's like, this office costs us like $400,000 and we got all this cool stuff and we get to have experiences that not a lot of people do. And I went into entrepreneurship when I was 30 years old and I made a conscious decision that I was going to give myself 4 years in entrepreneurship before I decided to pivot. Like, you know, people are like, I'm going to leave my job and I'm going to try this out for a couple months. I gave myself 4 years to try it out because I came from a corporate world and I do very well in that world and I can be very articulate and well-spoken and wear the pole and the tie and I do great and I'm the good old boys club. And again, doesn't fill me up, but I could play that game. So for me, I hate
that game, dude.
I hate
games
it.
Is so.
But I could make $250,000 to $350,000 a year becoming a regional manager at some fucking Fortune company and I would do a great job and I'd run KPIs and, you know, do the thing. But for me, I was like, I'm going to give myself a 4-year run room for entrepreneurship. First of all, lengthen your time horizon. It takes longer than you think to actually learn real skills.
Yep.
And you only learn those by failing. I'm sorry, you don't learn that much from succeeding. You learn from failing.
People gotta get comfortable with failure.
Yeah.
I like when you position failure as like testing. You're testing things.
That's it.
So a failure isn't like detrimental. It's like, oh, that test didn't work out.
Yep.
We're moving forward.
Again, coming back to the puzzle analogy, if you open up a puzzle and you put some pieces together, and then you looked for a corner piece and you grabbed a piece and it didn't fit, and you go, oh, I'm a failure. I'm done. I'm not building the puzzle. I failed. I suck.
It's a good example.
Bro, there's 100 pieces in there. Find another piece.
Yeah. Take another go.
It might take you 100 pieces to find the corner piece.
Yep.
But if you're still, and if you observe the pieces and you take a moment to pause, as you get better, you create a new lens, which you can look at things through, and you have some discernment and you go, oh, I see the piece. It's right there. Boom, got it. What's the next one now? Fail forward, fail fast, but try and reframe your failures. The only thing that is a failure is if you stop. If you stop trying,
Correct.
You did fail. If you never stop trying, you never failed. You just learned a bunch of shit.
I can't imagine living with that.
Yeah.
Like if I want to do something, I will try till I die.
Yeah.
Or
good.
get there. Like stopping and knowing that you didn't do it or try, like that's horrible.
Oh yeah, I do that
Pain
all
of regret is worse than the pain of failure.
I do that. I will say this in conversations too, where I'm like very convicted in something, where I'm like, I will die on my sword over this belief that I have. Because if your flag is so firmly planted in the ground, you are telling other people who you are so that you can find your tribe. I am not for everyone, but because my flag is so firmly planted, the people that do resonate with me are like, that's my guy. And then the second thing is, have the humility and the humbleness to move your flag when you've gotten a new set of information that you might say, oh man, this old way of thinking was actually the wrong way. Yeah, it brought me all these gifts, but actually this new way of thinking, don't be afraid to change your thinking when new information comes in, even if it makes you look stupid from what you've done in the past.
We never have all everything.
Yeah.
We're always going to be moving the flag.
So the quote that I love is strong convictions loosely held. It's a paradox.
Yeah.
Strong convictions loosely held, right? So yeah.
That's powerful. I've struggled with that a little bit because, I like to be liked. And I'm like, damn, if I say this one thing, this might work. And so there's been a little bit of struggle there, but you're so right. I mean, you're only looking for your people. You don't want those other people anyway.
Yeah.
So it's just it's a filter. I lost train with that. What the question was anyway.
Is this the happiest I've ever been?
Oh yeah.
So
important question.
It's a massively important question. So anyway, I'm sitting in the driveway with my sister, and I told my sister, I said, I gave myself 4 years to go through entrepreneurship and to really understand like if this is cut out for me. And the funny thing is, so I'm like 3 years, 3/4 in, and if I looked back to when I was 30 years old at a W-2 job, right, when I just had left, if I could take a montage clip of my life now, and we got McLarens and Cobras and Teslas and pickleball courts and hyperbaric chambers and cryos and all this big office, and we have helicopters and planes and houses, and I'm just like, if I saw like an Instagram montage highlight reel, I would be like, no way that's my life in 3.5 years. There's no way.
Yeah.
But yet here I am, but here's the issue. I was sitting there in the car with my sister, I said, I would say, I can't believe it. I can't wait until that moment. Here I am in this moment, and I haven't found the joy in it yet. Because it's been such hard freaking work to get here that I haven't been able to my nervous system has been so activated for so long to fight to get to have this thing. Now, my biggest challenge right now is how do I find gratitude and joy in the life and the things that I have, and how do I share those with other people? So that is my next phase of life, because I almost have everything that I've always wanted. I'm like right there.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, once you do, don't just say you want the next thing. Like, have gratitude, slow down, like,
then
enjoy
open up
the
some
thing.
room for that relationship, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So am I the happiest I've ever been? No, I think the happiest that I've ever been is when I was young and naive and just like running around with my friends. And,
I couldn't agree more. Don't you miss
being a degenerate and having no responsibility and having endless freedom and just like, I was so much more present in my life. Right now, I think about like this system, this business, this thing, and like, people can look at it and like, that doesn't look like a good life. I'm like, yeah, but I chose this life. And again, I'm not doing it forever. I'm playing a finite game to get the things that I want that facilitates meaning in my life. And then I'm just switch to infinite games. I have a plan.
I love that. And I like to look at life like that, like in chapters. Yeah, like I'm in this chapter right now.
Yeah.
I'm in this phase, and then it's not a forever phase. So you can move out of that. Would you say you said you're moving into your infinite games? Yeah. Right? Can you define that one more time? What's your infinite game? Yeah, well, infinite games so a finite game is a game with means to an end. Correct.
So you're trying to achieve a very specific outcome, and then there's a duration of time that you'd like to achieve that outcome. It's very finite. Infinite games, there is no outcome. There's no desired outcome. You
just enjoy it.
It's just the gameplay. It's the sake of gameplay. Again, what we talked about in the beginning, we need to find ways to gamify our life because it's what can make us consistent and have a life that's sustainable. People are like, oh man, you see all these super successful people that charge so hard because they gamified their life. It's just what fills them up with love and joy. It's their infinite game. The only thing that they want to do is extend gameplay. When it's attached to like, oh man, I just want to achieve X thing. That's a finite game. That's okay. And it's important to play. But then when you achieve that, how do you step into your infinite? And the infinite game for me is there's stages of my life. My 30s are about acquisition. The next stage of my life when I get into my 40s is going to be about harmony. So 20s was learning and failing forward. 30s is around acquisition and conquering.
Like getting things.
Yeah, I'm acquiring skill sets, relationships, knowledge, cool thing. Like I'm acquiring these things and I'm conquering. People are like, I'm conquering my self-limiting beliefs. I'm conquering my fears. And then I'm conquering business endeavors. You know what I mean? Like you gotta compete, you gotta win. So when I go into my 40s, it's really about balance and harmony. After you've acquired all these things, how do you integrate them in your life harmoniously where you're not having the same energy of this conqueror? Because I see people that say they rule with this iron fist. And
dude, I feel like people, they rev themselves up so much in business and they basically become a machine to get all the things. And then they never step off they never change the game.
The machine never stops.
They just go until they die like that. I'm like, I don't know if I want that.
That and to the hedonic treadmill. Which is a gnarly thing. And
that's more the one that might suck me in.
Bro, I get it. It's hard.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm like, do you like ice cream? Do you enjoy any fun?
Bro.
So
a waffle cone?
So if I brought you into an ice cream shop and I said, you could have any flavor you want. You could try them all too. Will you say, oh no, I just want this one vanilla flavor forever. I don't want it. No, and again, then you say, well, how much is ice cream? I say, that's free for you, because you could have whatever you want. Do you eat one scoop or do you get a scoop of everything?
Best example ever. I'm using this.
Very tough. I see ice cream everywhere. I'm like, how much is it? What can I have? They're like, oh, whatever you want. I'm like, whenever you want it. Very dangerous.
Dude, this is the problem that we're in, because 100 years ago, there was only 2 flavors of ice cream. Now we have infinite flavors.
Bro, you couldn't jump on Instagram and Hinge and have 100 women being like,
it's crazy.
Here's this flavor.
With your abs, bro. What are we talking about?
So I do my best to try and look at this and say, if I eat every flavor of ice cream, is that truly going to make me happy, or is it going to make me sick in some way? And I don't have the answer to that right at this moment, but I'm at least trying to identify that. And then the hedonic treadmill is this pleasure loop. If you're always trying to do the next thing that gives you that dopamine rush, that gives you that pleasure. And I have to be really careful about that when, again, this happens with celebrities when they run into money quickly. Insert Justin Bieber. Dude, you give that guy all the money and fame in the entire world at 13 years old, and he has to live his entire life like that.
Can't imagine.
Could you imagine? He didn't even have a fully developed brain until you're friggin' 25 years old when you're a man. And you have to have everything at your fingertips, free ice cream everywhere you go.
I wonder if he's just fucked up.
He has to be.
Right?
And he's working through it on his own path. So in my 40s, I'm looking to find harmony and balance in my life. And then in my 50s, is going to be all about my hand, my giving hand. Yeah. And I want to work with drug and alcohol rehabilitation centers to change the way that they go against, that they treat addictions. Because I think that they're doing it the wrong way to be.
Does that come from, like, have you had experience with drug and alcohol?
Yeah, so my mom was an alcoholic. Again, love her to death. She has gone through a journey and a half and is one of the most amazing, beautiful, strong people I know. However, there's a long chapter in her book where she made bad decisions and was an extreme alcoholic and went to many rehabilitation centers and relapsed every time and caused a lot of trauma and damage in the family that she still holds heavy on her heart today because it was so much damage, like gnarly. But I tell her, because she's always like trying to find, she loves me so much, and we were her why to finally give it up after fucking, 12 years plus, just every day.
It's a good why.
But for her, I told my mom, I said, I forgive you. I hold no resentment because A, it made me the person that I am today. Yeah, it was freaking hard and it sucked, but it made me a strong individual and very relentless. But also too, that was a few chapters in your book. Your life is an entire book. And if you judge somebody on a couple chapters of their life and you hold them to that, that's not fair. So I told my mom, I said, yeah, you had some bad chapters. I hope the new pages that you write are beautiful. And I love you still. And she's been writing some fucking beautiful, beautiful work. And
got the chills.
Yeah, so I'm really proud of her, but when she would go to these rehabilitation centers, I looked at their model, and I'm a business guy, and I said, this is stupid, makes no sense. And then my ex of 5 years ago, she was going to clinical psychology to get her PhD, and she had a minor in Buddhist contemplative psychotherapy, so we had rich conversations. But she worked at a drug and alcohol rehabilitation center for men, and I would ask her, I'm very curious, what are they doing? When do they wake up? What are they eating? How are they exercising? What are you guys talking about? What other forms of things? And it was a lot of like talk therapy. It's a lot of therapy, which I think therapy is a phenomenal tool. And I think it's one category, but I also think too that these people, first of all, need to get their brain scanned, number one. They need to do like a neuro brain spect image scan where you could do a 3D blood mapping of your brain to see if there's like ineffective areas of your brain that aren't getting proper blood flow that are corresponding to certain behaviors and patterns. I think that's important, but they don't scan their brains, whatever. Number two, I think that they should look at their gut health and see the bacteria in their gut and the nutrition that they're having. Food is medicine. And then the last thing is, I think that they should be exercising. We talked about it when you go through a really bad chapter in your life, what do you go to first? Health and fitness, because it's so powerful. So then I'd go, I'm taking them to the gym. We go, oh, what are they doing? Oh, they're just like, this person's doing this random thing, this person's doing this random thing. I'm like, these people need to be on a health and fitness program, which might be, I scan your brain and I say, based on your brain scan, this subregion of the brain is not active. So we need these specific nutrients. Based on your gut mapping, we need you to be on these micronutrients. You need these macronutrients. And this style of exercise is actually going to be best for you because it's going to bring more blood flow in this left central lobe, which is coordinated with.
People don't go into this much detail because it's more expensive to create a program like that?
So here's my take. And again, there's places that are like this, but at a whole, how it works is usually when you go to a rehabilitation center, it's most likely, a lot of the times it's court ordered.
Right.
So court orders you to go into a 30-day or 30, 60, 90-day rehabilitation center, and you live there, you're out of your environment, so you're not doing the drugs or the alcohol, so you stay sober for that period of time. They talk about you, what are your traumas, they have you process all this stuff, but all these internal things in your body are still not right. But then I looked at it and I said, and I'm a business guy, I said, well, where is this money coming from? Well, it's coming from these massive insurance companies. Well, how did they get billed? Walk me through your billing system. Like what codes and numbers you have to put to bill that insurance company so they can pay you back. Who's paying these insurance companies? Oh, us, the taxpayers. And then how much is it per head? Oh, it's usually like we're getting $20,000 to $30,000 per head per month, and then you're feeding them fucking Doritos and hot dogs, and I'm like,
horrible.
Okay, so there's a massive business here, and there's a lot of people making money. So I just looked at like following the money, and then if repeat business is good for the business owner, then maybe it was built by design. And I don't think people are that malicious, but I do think that people want money, and I do believe in the old adage of follow the money, find the problem.
Wow.
And that's
maybe
when I was like,
do this before 50.
I just yeah.
No,
I need to acquire some more stuff.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah. But I want to be a spokesperson for it, and I want to challenge the how we go about that, and I want to find a way that we can do it that's economic. Because you can't just scan somebody's brain and do all these things at a low cost. But I think there's a way with AI and the advent of technology that we can offset those costs and impact the world at scale. And I just hope if there's somebody out there, the analogy that I like to use is, let's say they were born with a broken arm, and they tried to do a push-up. And every time they tried to do a push-up, they couldn't do it. And the story that they told themselves was they're weak. So then they said they're weak, and then somebody was like, hey, do a push-up, and they can't do it. And then that person says, you're weak, and affirms them in that. And then they come to me for therapy. I go, what's been wrong? Like, I'm just a weak person. Everyone thinks I'm weak. I've always been weak since I was born. And they go, hey, before we dive into any of this, can I just scan your body? Then I scan their body and I find out they have a broken arm. And then they get a cast for 6 months, come out of it, and they can do a push-up. And I was like, so there's internal workings. If you came in and you saw a mechanic, and again, I know I'm very passionate and convicted about this, but if you came into a mechanic and you said, hey, Mr. Mechanic, my car's making a really funny noise. When I go above 30 miles per hour, it makes a rattling noise. And then when I turn, it ticks. He doesn't say, sit down, let's talk about that. How does that make you feel when other people hear that ticking noise? Does it feel embarrassing?
Yeah.
Or does the mechanic say, okay, let me scan your car and see what's going on? So can we at least do both of them at the same time?
That's huge. Wow.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the later chapter of your infinite game.
Yeah.
It's just, your infinite games, it's not like one thing. It's just like doing things that you're doing because you love them.
And it's ever evolving. It's again to what would your life look like if all you wanted to do was extend gameplay? What would those games look like? And if it's chasing the bigger yacht, that doesn't fill me up. But if it's in chasing impact and purpose to help other people's mothers to maybe not have that relapse rate because we did find out that they had this broken system in their body, that lights me up. But I also, again, people are like, well, you can do this now. And I'm like, yes, but I wouldn't be doing it in an infinite way. I'll be doing it in a stressed way. So when I acquire all these things, when I conquer these things and have these relationships and find harmony and balance in my life and become immovable and testify my truth to the world, then I can make massive impact. And there's a lot more leverage there.
I like it. Yeah, and there's no right way to do it. You can do it however you want to do it.
Exactly.
As well.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. Well, maybe we should wrap up.
Yeah.
Dude, it's been a great conversation.
Thanks,
I know
man.
you much better now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing all the games you're playing, dude.
Likewise, man.
All right.
You got some amazing things going on too, dude. So happy to support.
Let's go. Bro. Holy shit.